For 5 years, Jessica and I had built what I thought was a perfect life together in Boston. My marketing executive job was demanding but rewarding, though lately the pressure had been getting to me. We had our routines, our dreams, our future planned out. What I did not plan for was how easily I could throw it all away in a single day. I had dated Amanda in college, and we had history, complicated history. My mother, Diane, always had opinions about my relationships. Strong opinions she never hesitated to share. That sunny Tuesday morning, I had no idea that forgetting one date would cost me everything I valued. Before I tell you how I destroyed my marriage in less than 24 hours, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever forgotten something important that came back to haunt you. The digital alarm blared at 6:30 in the morning, and I groaned, slamming my hand down to silence it. Another day. Another deadline. The Boston skyline was just beginning to glow with sunrise, but my mind was already racing with the presentation I needed to finish by noon. "Morning, honey," Jessica said, her voice still soft with sleep. At 32, she was beautiful in that natural, unassuming way. Her dark hair splayed across the pillow, her brown eyes looking up at me with that same warmth they had shown for the past 5 years of marriage. "Morning," I mumbled already, reaching for my phone to check emails. The Miller account was worth millions to our firm, and as lead marketing executive, the pressure sat squarely on my shoulders. Jessica stretched and got up, tying her hair back. "I will make breakfast today," she said, with a strange little smile. "Something special." I barely registered her words, nodding absently as I scrolled through 17 new messages that had arrived overnight. While showering, I mentally rehearsed my presentation points. The hot water did little to ease the tension in my shoulders. 5 years ago, I would have enjoyed this moment, but lately work had consumed every corner of my mind. When I walked into our kitchen 20 minutes later, I was surprised to see Jessica had prepared my favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, crispy bacon, and freshly squeezed orange juice. The table was set with our good plates, the ones we usually saved for guests. "Wow, what is all this for?" I asked, genuinely confused. Jessica looked at me expectantly. Then her smile faltered just slightly. "You know what today is, right?" My mind raced. Tuesday the 15th, the Miller presentation. Her birthday was in August, so that was not it. I tried to recall any significant date in June, but came up blank. Of course, I lied, sitting down to buy myself time. Jessica placed a small blue envelope beside my plate. "Happy anniversary, Charlie," she said softly. The words hit me like ice water. Our wedding anniversary. 5 years today. The realization must have shown on my face because Jessica's expression shifted from hopeful to hurt in an instant. "You forgot," she said. Not a question. No, the presentation today has me distracted. I was going to surprise you later." I stammered, feeling heat rise to my face. The lie tasted bitter alongside the sweet pancakes. Jessica sat down across from me, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "It is okay. I know you have been stressed. I made dinner reservations at Montelli's for 7. That gives you plenty of time after your presentation, right?" Montelli's was where we had our first date. The thought that she had remembered and planned ahead while I had completely forgotten made my stomach twist with guilt. 7 is perfect," I assured her, reaching across to squeeze her hand. "I will be there. I promise I will make this up to you." She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Just being together is what matters. I should go get ready for school. The kids have their art showcase today. Jessica taught 2nd grade at a private elementary school nearby. She loved her job with the same passion I had once felt for mine, before it became all about numbers and client demands. After she left for work, I called my assistant in a panic. "Frank, I need a favor. It is my anniversary today and I completely forgot. Can you order flowers, roses, lots of them, and find something appropriate for a 5th anniversary gift, whatever the traditional thing is?" "Wood or silverware," he replied without hesitation. What fifth anniversary is traditionally wood or silverware, Frank explained. My wife is big on these things. Find something silver then. Nice, but not too expensive. I need it by this afternoon. Just as I was about to head out the door, my phone rang with a number I had not seen in years. Charlie. It is Amanda. Amanda Lewis. My college girlfriend. The one I had dated for 3 years before she took that architecture internship in London and we painfully decided to end things rather than attempt long distance. That was almost 8 years ago. Amanda. Wow. This is unexpected. I replied, my heart suddenly racing for reasons unrelated to work stress. I am in Boston, just for today, she explained. A quick client meeting downtown. I remembered you settled here, and thought maybe we could catch up. For old time's sake, I hesitated, the weight of my forgotten anniversary still heavy on my conscience. But it would be just lunch. And I had promised Jessica dinner. There was enough time for both. Sure, lunch would be great, I heard myself say. Perfect. How about Café Laurent? At noon I will see you there. I agreed, already calculating how I could shift my presentation earlier to make it all work. As I drove to the office, memories of Amanda flooded back. Her long blonde hair, her ambitious drive, the way she could make me laugh even during finals week. Our breakup had been one of mutual respect but deep heartbreak. We had been 26 then, thinking we were making the mature choice. Now at 34, I wondered what might have happened if one of us had fought harder to stay together. I pushed the thought away. I was married now, happily married. Today was my anniversary, and these thoughts were just nostalgia, nothing more. But as I rushed through my morning meetings, I could not stop checking the time, counting down to noon. Café Laurent was buzzing with the lunch crowd when I arrived, exactly 12 minutes late due to parking issues. I scanned the tables and then I saw her. Amanda had cut her hair into a stylish bob since college, but her smile was exactly as I remembered, confident with just a hint of mischief. She wore a sleek charcoal business suit that accentuated her tall, athletic frame. Charlie Marshall, she said, standing to greet me. Still running fashionably late, I see. I laughed suddenly, feeling 23 again. Some things never change. We hugged briefly, and I caught the familiar scent of her perfume, something citrusy and expensive. As we sat down, I noticed she had already ordered a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, my old favorite. You remembered, I said, surprised. I remember everything, she replied, pouring me a glass. How could I forget the guy who knew every word to Coldplay's first album and could recite them even when completely wasted at Phi Delta? Please do not remind me of that video, I groaned, the memory, both embarrassing and oddly comforting in its familiarity. For the next hour, it was as if the intervening years had collapsed. We talked about college friends, professors we had both loved and hated, and eventually our lives now. She had become a partner at a prestigious architecture firm designing commercial buildings across Europe and now expanding to the United States. And you? Still conquering the marketing world one campaign at a time, she asked. I told her about my job, the stress of the Miller account, my team of 5 people who depended on me. What I did not mention was Jessica, or that today was my anniversary. Something held me back, perhaps the way Amanda was looking at me with that intensity I had once found irresistible. I got married, I finally said when there was a natural pause. 5 years ago. Amanda's expression flickered briefly before settling into a polite smile. Of course you did. Some lucky woman snatched you up. What is she like? Jessica is. She is a teacher. Elementary school. She is kind, patient. Nothing like the corporate sharks we deal with daily. Amanda nodded, swirling the wine in her glass. Sounds nice. Safe. There was something in her tone that made me feel defensive, though I could not pinpoint why. It is a good life, I said firmly. Stable. And is that what you always wanted, stability? Her eyes met mine directly. I remember a Charlie who wanted adventure, who talked about traveling the world before settling down. I felt a flush of something, anger. regret rise up my neck. People grow up, Amanda. Dreams change. Do they change? Or do we just compromise them away bit by bit? She leaned forward. I got divorced last year. Martin was perfect on paper, successful, handsome, from a good family. But something was always missing. I did not know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to defend my choices, my life with Jessica. Another part wondered if Amanda was right. Had I compromised away the dreams of my younger self? "Let us get out of here," Amanda suddenly suggested. "Your office can survive without you for one afternoon, right? I want to see if that little bookstore on Commonwealth Avenue is still there." I checked my watch, 2:15. My afternoon was packed with meetings, and I still needed to pick up Jessica's gift. The responsible thing would be to decline. "Sure, why not?" I heard myself say instead. "Frank can handle things for a few hours." I texted my assistant that something had come up, silencing the voice in my head that screamed this was a terrible idea. One afternoon reliving old times could not hurt. I would still be home for dinner with Jessica by 7. As we walked through Back Bay, Amanda slipped her arm through mine with casual familiarity. We found the bookstore amazingly still there despite the digital age, and spent an hour browsing shelves and reminiscing about the literature courses we had taken together. "Remember that night we stayed up until 4 finishing our Shakespeare papers?" she asked as we exited the store. "You fell asleep on my shoulder in the library, and the security guard thought we were homeless." I laughed. "Professor Wilson still gave me a B-, said my analysis of Hamlet showed promising insight but typical undergraduate laziness. "That is because you were busy analyzing me instead." Amanda teased her fingers, brushing mine as we walked. The touch sent an unexpected jolt through me. I pulled my hand away, suddenly uncomfortable with the direction things were heading. "There is a nice park nearby," I said, changing the subject. "We could walk through there before you have to leave for your flight." Amanda checked her watch. "I have time. My flight is not until 9 tonight." We strolled through the public garden, the June sun warm on our shoulders. I had silenced my phone after the third call from the office, something I never did. Jessica had texted twice asking about dinner, but I had only replied with a quick, "Still at work, see you tonight," before putting my phone away. The afternoon stretched on, and with each passing hour, the real world seemed to recede further. Amanda and I found a small bar, with a patio overlooking the water, and one drink turned into 2. "Do you ever think about us?" she asked suddenly, her fingers tracing the condensation on her glass. "About what might have happened if I had stayed?" The question hung between us, dangerous and tempting. Before I could formulate an answer, I heard a familiar voice that sent ice through my veins. "Charlie, is that you?" I turned to see my mother Diane approaching our table with shopping bags in hand. At 62, she still maintained the impeccable appearance and direct gaze that had intimidated my friends since childhood. "Mom," I managed, standing awkwardly. "What are you doing here?" "Nordstrom was having a sale," she replied, her eyes already fixed on Amanda with recognition. "And who is this?" This was the moment to be honest, to simply say, "This is Amanda, an old girlfriend from college." But panic seized me as I calculated how this information would inevitably reach Jessica. "This is Amanda, my best friend from college," I said instead. "She is in town just for today." "Amanda, this is my mother Diane." Amanda raised an eyebrow but played along. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Marshall. Charlie has told me so much about you." "Has he?" My mother's tone was skeptical. She had never forgotten a face in her life, and I knew she remembered Amanda from the numerous times she had visited our home during college. Funny he has never mentioned having a best friend named Amanda. The conversation that followed was excruciating, with my mother asking pointed questions and making loaded comments about old friendships while Amanda maintained an amused composure. Finally, my mother checked her watch. "Well, I should let you two catch up. Charlie, I assume you will be leaving soon for your dinner with Jessica, for your anniversary." My blood ran cold. I had completely lost track of time. It was 5:45 and I was at least 30 minutes from home with no gift, no flowers, and several drinks in my system. Yes, of course, I stammered. Just wrapping up here. Good. Jessica seemed so excited when I spoke to her yesterday. 5 years is a milestone worth celebrating properly. She emphasized the last word while giving Amanda a pointed look. After my mother left, I checked my phone to find 6 missed calls from Jessica and a text message. Where are you? Reservation is at 7. Please call me. I have to go, I told Amanda, gathering my things in a panic. I completely lost track of time. Amanda's expression was unreadable. Anniversary dinner, huh? Interesting that you never mentioned that part. I should have, I admitted, suddenly feeling the weight of my deception. This was. I do not know what this was. This was 2 old friends catching up, Amanda said, but her tone suggested she knew it had been more than that. For what it is worth, Charlie, you seem different. Less certain about your choices than you are trying to pretend. I did not have time to analyze her words. I have to run. It was good seeing you, Amanda. She reached for my hand. I am moving back to Boston next month. Permanently. My firm is opening an office here. She pressed a business card into my palm. If you ever want to talk about anything. I pocketed the card without responding and hurried away, my mind racing with excuses I could offer Jessica. But as I fought through rush hour traffic with a dead phone and no anniversary gift, I knew there was no excuse that could make this right. The house was quiet when I finally arrived home at 7:30. Too quiet. No music, no warm greeting. Just the soft glow of candles on our dining table, illuminating 2 place settings, a bottle of wine, and Jessica sitting alone in her navy blue dress, the one I had always loved on her. You are here, she said, her voice carefully controlled. Finally. Jess, I am so sorry. I began, my prepared excuses dissolving at the sight of her. She had curled her hair, applied makeup, things she rarely bothered with for everyday life. She had made an effort while I had made none. Dinner is cold, she said simply. The reservation was canceled when I called to say we would be late. I made pasta instead, but that is cold now too. I noticed a small wrapped box beside her plate, my anniversary gift untouched. Work was crazy. I attempted setting down my keys. The Miller presentation ran long, and then there were follow-up questions and my phone died. Stop. Jessica's voice was quiet but firm. I called your office at 1:30. Frank said you had left at noon and mentioned something about a personal matter. My stomach dropped. I can explain. Can you? Because I have been sitting here for nearly 2 hours, wondering what kind of personal matter was more important than our anniversary. The anniversary you promised this morning, you had not forgotten. The lie hung between us, ugly and undeniable. I sat down across from her, trying to formulate a response that would sound less damning than the truth. I ran into an old friend, I said finally. From college. We got talking and I just lost track of time. An old friend, Jessica repeated flatly. Must have been some conversation to make you forget dinner, your phone charger, and apparently the ability to borrow someone else's phone to call your waiting wife. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Jessica and I looked at each other in confusion. Are you expecting someone? She asked. I shook my head, almost relieved by the interruption. Jessica stood and walked to the door, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I heard murmured voices, and then my mother appeared in the dining room with Jessica trailing behind. Charlie, I just had to stop by and see how your anniversary dinner went. My mother announced, taking in the scene, the cold food, the undrunk wine, my disheveled appearance. Oh dear. Did I interrupt something? We were just discussing Charlie's day, Jessica said, resuming her seat with rigid posture. He was telling me about running into an old friend from college. My mother gave me a look that I recognized all too well, disapproval mixed with a perverse satisfaction at having caught me in a lie. An old friend. Is that what we are calling it now? She asked, setting her purse on the counter. Jessica, dear, your dress is lovely. Such a shame to waste it on a cold dinner at home. Mom, I warned, but she continued as if she had not heard me. I ran into Charlie myself this afternoon, she informed Jessica, at that bar near the public garden. He was having quite a nice time with Amanda. Jessica's expression did not change, but I saw her hands tighten around her napkin. Amanda, she asked. You know his college sweetheart, my mother continued, either oblivious to or unconcerned about the damage she was inflicting. The blonde architect. The one Charlie dated for 3 years. The one he was considering proposing to before she moved to London. Mom, that is enough, I snapped, but the damage was already done. Jessica's eyes locked with mine. You spent the day with your ex-girlfriend, on our anniversary. It was not like that I insisted, though it had been exactly like that. She was only in town for a day. It was just lunch that went a little long. 5 hours is not a little long. Charlie, my mother, chimed in unhelpfully. And you introduced her as your best friend. Funny, I thought that was Kyle, from your basketball league. Jessica stood up slowly, her composure cracking. You lied to your mother about who she was. Why would you do that unless nothing? I interrupted. Amanda and I are friends now. That is all. It was completely innocent. Then why lie? Jessica's voice rose. Why hide it? Why miss our anniversary dinner for it? I did not miss dinner on purpose. I lost track of time with your ex-girlfriend while I was here waiting for you, Jessica was shouting now, tears forming in her eyes. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? To find out from your mother that you blew off our anniversary to spend time with an ex you apparently still have feelings for. That is not fair, I said, standing to face her. You are making assumptions. Am I wrong? Jessica challenged. Look me in the eye and tell me there is nothing between you and Amanda. I opened my mouth, but found no words. The afternoon's conversations, the nostalgia, the way Amanda had looked at me, the way I had responded, none of it had been innocent. Not really. My silence was answer enough. Jessica's tears spilled over. 5 years, Charlie. 5 years, and this is how much it means to you. Jessica, please, I reached for her arm. Do not touch me, she cried, her voice breaking. How could you do this to us? To everything we built? My mother finally sensing she had overstepped attempted damage control. Now, Jessica, I am sure it is not as bad as it seems. Charlie has always been forgetful about dates, even as a boy. Stay out of this, Mom. I snapped, frustration and guilt boiling over. You have done enough. Jessica continued, her words tumbling out between sobs. I made reservations weeks ago. I bought a new dress. I spent all day thinking about how to make tonight special for you while you were out reliving your college romance. Her pain was palpable, and it was my fault. But instead of accepting that, instead of apologizing completely, I felt a surge of defensive anger. The pressure of the day, the guilt, the alcohol still in my system, it all culminated in a moment of breathtaking stupidity. Would you shut up? I shouted. You are embarrassing me in front of my mother. The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Jessica stopped crying immediately. Shock replacing her anguish. My mother gasped. And I knew in that instant that I had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Jessica, I did not mean I began, but she had already turned away. I am going to my sister's, she said, her voice eerily calm now. I cannot be here right now. Please let us talk about this, I pleaded, following her as she walked upstairs to our bedroom and began pulling clothes from the closet. There is nothing to talk about, she replied methodically, placing items in an overnight bag. You made your feelings perfectly clear. I am an embarrassment to you. I am less important than an ex-girlfriend. And now I know. I grabbed her arm. That is not true. I made a mistake. A stupid, terrible mistake. She pulled away from me, her eyes cold. Do not touch me. I do not even know who you are anymore. Downstairs, I could hear my mother calling out awkward apologies and excuses about needing to get home to let her dog out. The front door closed, leaving Jessica and me alone with the wreckage of our marriage. Please do not leave, I begged as she zipped her bag. We can fix this. Jessica paused at the door, the overnight bag in her hand. You know what hurts the most, Charlie. Not that you forgot our anniversary. Not even that you spent it with her. It is that when confronted with your mistakes, your first instinct was to silence me, rather than apologize to me. She left without another word, the sound of her car starting and driving away echoing in the empty house. I tried calling her repeatedly that night, each call going straight to voicemail. I texted apologies, explanations, please. Nothing. The silence was deafening. Days turned into weeks. Jessica communicated only through her sister, who came to collect more of her clothes. When I went to her school hoping to talk, the principal politely but firmly asked me to leave. Then, 1 month after our ruined anniversary papers arrived, divorce proceedings had been initiated. The legal language was cold and impersonal, but the message was clear: Jessica was done. The first month after receiving the divorce papers, I existed in a state of denial. This could not be happening, not to us, not to the life we had built. In my desperation, I called Amanda. I am sorry about what happened, she said when we met for coffee. But maybe this is a sign of what I asked, exhausted from sleepless nights. That you and I have unfinished business, she suggested, reaching for my hand across the table. I am moving here next week. We could see where things go. It was tempting to fall into something familiar to distract myself from the pain of losing Jessica. We went on 3 dates, but each time all I could think about was Jessica, how she would have laughed at that joke, what she would have ordered, how her hand felt different in mine than Amanda's. On our 4th date, Amanda confronted me. You are not present, Charlie. You are still with her in your head. I am trying, I insisted. No, you are not, she replied, surprisingly gentle. And you should know. I knew it was your anniversary that day. When I stared at her, your Facebook memories showed up in my feed that morning. 5 years ago today, I married the love of my life. I knew, and I called you anyway. The revelation should have made me angry, but instead it clarified everything. Why would you do that? Because I wanted to see if you would choose me, she admitted. And you did for a few hours, but your heart was never in it. We parted ways after that, both acknowledging that whatever we might have rekindled was built on shaky foundations. Left alone with my thoughts, I finally began to face the reality of what I had done. I started seeing a therapist, trying to understand why I had sabotaged my marriage so completely. You have a pattern of avoiding emotional responsibility, Dr. Winters observed in our 3rd session. When faced with Jessica's legitimate hurt, you turned it around to make her the problem. It was a difficult truth to swallow, but he was right. I had done the same thing with past relationships, with friendships, even with my mother. Speaking of my mother, it was time to address her role in all this as well. I invited her to lunch, determined to set some boundaries. I am sorry about Jessica, she began immediately. I had no idea things would go that far. Yes, you did, I countered. You knew exactly what you were doing when you told her about Amanda. She started to defend herself, but I held up my hand. Mom, I am not blaming you for my mistakes. I made terrible choices that day. But you have always inserted yourself into my relationships, and it stops now. For once, my mother listened without interrupting. We left that lunch with a new understanding: I would always be her son. But my personal life was my own to manage. 3 months after our separation, I saw Jessica for the first time at our divorce mediation. She looked beautiful, but distant, as if she had placed herself on the other side of a glass wall. I had prepared what to say, but when the moment came, words failed me. Later that week, I received a letter from her. It was 14 pages long, detailing every emotion she had experienced since our anniversary: the hurt, the betrayal, the anger, and finally the acceptance. I cannot be with someone who could disregard me so completely, she wrote near the end. Who could silence me when I expressed pain that he caused? That moment revealed a truth about us that I cannot unsee. I read the letter 17 times, each reading more painful than the last, because I knew she was right. I had failed her in the most fundamental way. I had made her feel unimportant, unheard, and unloved. When the final divorce papers needed signing, I did not contest anything. Jessica deserved every consideration, every kindness I had failed to show her when it mattered. 6 months after our anniversary, I hit rock bottom. I had lost weight. My work performance had suffered, and friends had stopped calling. One night, staring at the wedding photo, I still could not bring myself to take down. I finally accepted the full weight of my actions and their consequences. I decided to make changes, real ones, not just promises to do better. I left my high-pressure job for a smaller firm with more reasonable hours. I established routines that centered around self-improvement rather than self-destruction. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my marriage. 9 months after our separation, I ran into Jessica at our friend's wedding. She was there alone, looking radiant in a silver dress. We made eye contact across the reception hall, and after a moment's hesitation, I approached her. "Hello, Charlie," she said, her voice neutral but not cold. "You look well," I offered, unsure what else to say. "I am," she confirmed. "I took that teaching position at Westfield, the one I always talked about." "That is wonderful," I said, genuinely happy for her. "You will be amazing there." We talked politely for several minutes, careful to stay on safe topics. As she turned to leave, I gathered my courage. "Jessica, I know it does not change anything, but I am sorry, truly sorry. Not just for that day, but for not being the husband you deserved." She looked at me thoughtfully. "I know you are. And I forgive you, Charlie. Not for you, but for me. I needed to let go of that anger." "Thank you," I said, humbled by her grace. "You know what I realized," she continued. "I deserved someone who remembered I was a priority. Every day, not just on anniversaries." Her words struck me with their simple truth. "You did. You do." "Goodbye, Charlie," she said, squeezing my arm briefly before walking away. I watched her go, understanding finally that sometimes love is not enough if it is not accompanied by respect, consideration, and daily choice. A year after that fateful anniversary, I was having dinner with my friend Derek, who was complaining about his wife's expectations for their upcoming anniversary. "I do not see why it is such a big deal," he grumbled. "It is just a date on a calendar." I set down my fork and looked him squarely in the eye. "Let me tell you a story about how I destroyed my marriage in less than 24 hours by thinking exactly that." By the time I finished, Derek was silent, contemplating his own relationship with new eyes. "The thing about important dates," I told him, "is that they are not actually about the date itself. They are about showing the other person that what matters to them matters to you." I think about Jessica, often hoping she has found someone who celebrates all her important days, who listens when she speaks, who never makes her feel small or unimportant. Someone better than I was. As for me, I am still learning how to be that kind of person, the kind who remembers what matters before it is gone. Have you ever made a mistake that cost you something precious? Sometimes the most valuable lessons come at the highest prices. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. I would love to know in the comments if you have ever had to learn a difficult relationship lesson and what it taught you. Thank you for listening to my journey. May it help you treasure the people who matter most in your life before it is too late. Until next time, this is Charlie, wishing you the wisdom I found too late.